Liam, who broke the Guinness World Record for the most pull-ups in 24 hours, getting over 9,000 reps, which is just absolutely psychopathic. Crazy. Honestly, just crazy. And in the process of doing that, he also got himself Rhabdo, which he found out about at 12 hours and still managed to get the record. He spent 3 days in hospital, degloved his hands. It's a crazy story. So enjoy it. It's been 10 months since you did the pull-up record. Last time I spoke to you, you still had injuries.
Yeah, 10 months since the record. And look, I'm getting better, but bloody hell, it takes a long time. It's probably one of those things where it wasn't just the record, but it was a pretty intense 6 months of training because I knew I didn't have much time to basically go for it since I had a race earlier last year. And it's hard to kind of train for a 100-miler and for a pull-up record. So it was pretty intense. Like I was doing up to 2,000 a day, like at that peak volume. And I think that was already creating a lot of damage in my joints. And then obviously add the actual day of 9,000 plus Rhabdo and all that stuff. And yeah, I'm all pretty good now, except for my elbows. The elbows are such a tricky one.
Still, 10 months later, you still... What's wrong with them?
It's just tennis elbow, really. So I don't know the name of it, but you got that kind of tendon there that connects to the underside of the elbow. Even like last night, I probably did less than 100 pull-ups and it already felt it. And not to the extent that it'll stop you, but you know it's there. And you know if you keep going, like if I went and it did 1,000, it would be bloody sore. And then the next day it'd be sore.
You were doing the most volume I've seen someone do for probably any challenge ever. Like when I was tracking your volume, like what was your weekly total when you were ramping up at your highest point?
I couldn't tell you what my max is, but it was 10,000 a week.
That's so many. That's so many. And when did the idea to do this first come into your head?
It's a great question because it really just sprung upon me. I was obviously big into ultras and still am, just have taken a small break due to this. If we go back to maybe mid-2023, I was training for, I believe, the Surf Coast Century. The only reason I needed to do that's a 100K, is because I had the Tarawera 100-miler in early 24 and I needed a qualifying run. So I was training for that, and I think it was even before that event, which is September, it must have been Truett Haynes would have been talking some shit as he does. Or maybe I think he was training for his 8,100. I think that's what he got. And I don't know, one day at the gym, I just go, it was probably one of those days where I wasn't that motivated, so I was spending too much time on my phone, and I saw what the record was, 8,000, 24 hours. And I was just started doing some calculations. Like, how actually many is that? Like, you hear 8,000 in 24 hours, and you can't really put that down into an amount that would be. So I kind of figured it out what it would be for every minute, and it was only like 7. I'm like, well, that doesn't seem too hard. Like, I already do pull-ups. I've been doing calisthenics work, and I was a swimmer for 9 years, so my back strength was already pretty good. And then I just tried it. I go, okay, well, let's try do 8 a minute for 10 minutes. And I didn't even break a sweat. I go, all right, that seems pretty doable. The next day, I go back and try 20 minutes. And same thing. Wasn't fatigued at all. Like, I feel like I could do this forever. And then the next day, I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this for an hour now, kind of geared my workout towards that. And it was still piss easy. So from there I go, then probably thought about it for a few days. Like, is this something I can actually go for? I spoke to a few people that I kind of trust. I said, do you think this is something I should do? Just getting other people's opinion. Like, this will take a lot of time, and it's not going to develop me besides my back and probably cause some problems. But everyone I went to said absolutely yes. If you think you can get a world record, especially in something that's not stupid, go for it. So from there, I started just increasing my pull-ups. I was already doing 100 a day, sometimes 200. And yeah, just started building it up. So that's when I started finding all the problems that you actually face when doing pull-ups. So probably the next day, yeah, I went for, or not the next day, maybe the next week, went to do 200. No gloves or anything. So halfway through, surprise, surprise, start getting blisters. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a problem. And that's how you saw, I think you guys did a video actually on how I wrap my hands, the amount of layers I put on, because I've just kept adding. I started with just using like the paper towel that was at the gym. And then after about a week of doing that and getting worse blisters, I go, oh, okay, I need to add stuff here. So just started taping them. The tape starts to come off. Oh, I'll put tape in a glove. Cool, that's good. But you keep increasing the volume and something else goes. So it would be tape and 2 gloves. And then I also added, or tried probably 5-6 different straps that you're allowed to use. From the finger ones to there's a thing called hook straps, which is literally a hard thing, which goes like that and can wrap on the bar. I thought that'd be great, but no, it didn't turn out too well for my wrists, and ended up, I'll shout them out because they were recommended to me. The best straps I used, and it's the ones I used on the events, were Victory grips. You have to import them from the States, but they are very good. I think they're made for CrossFit, but they do their job pretty well.
Yeah, because you ended up with, I mean, we'll get into obviously the record, but your hands were absolutely fucking cooked still. Like even at the end, they were still so stuffed. But I don't think there's any way of avoiding that because every single person you see do it, it seems to be the same thing. But I think that the difference is between you and a lot of the people that have attempted it. Like Truett Haynes is what, 70 kilos as well? Like I think I saw him post up his weight the other day and he was like mid 70s or something. And what are you walking around at, 85, 86?
Oh, more than that. Yeah, he's got to be light at us, especially with his running. I saw him do a 206 half this morning, which is... He's
106, wasn't it? 106.
Oh, yeah, 106, sorry.
Yeah. I saw that today as well. 106 is crazy fast for a half marathon. Crazy fast.
Yeah, because, look, he's not as heavy as me. I usually sit about 89 kg. He'd probably be 10 kilo less. So
yeah, that's a massive difference in pull-ups for sure. Like most people that you've seen, we've seen the history of the pull-up record now has changed so much. Like there's so many people that have gone for it. Like we've had, what do we had? I think I wrote a list here. We got Goggins in 2013, 4,030. This is ChatGPT, so it could be wrong, but Kane 4,200. Then he did it again to 7,600. Jackson 8,000. Kenta. I haven't heard of Kenta before. Have you heard of this guy?
Japanese bloke. They got 8,940.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you missed one in there as well. After Goggins, I forget his name. There's a guy that was sitting on 5,000 for ages. And then your guy got 7,000 you mentioned. Then it was Jackson Italiano, and he really started off, I would kind of say, the modern age of this pull-up record. He kind of reinvigorated it. So that guy, Jackson, he got 8,008, and that's what the record was sitting for a decent bit.
Yeah, a couple of years, it looks like.
And from there, it just went record after record. Obviously, we probably have all seen Truett. He got it first. 4 hours later, a guy from Sydney actually got it. I believe Sydney.
Is this Kane? I think it's...
Yeah, well, that was the one, 8,600.
Yeah,
So
that was
Truett got it for probably the shortest time ever. Had it for about 4 hours. It was really fun to watch because I had both streams up, and you can do the calculations, see where they're at, where they're meant to be at. So I'm sure that's why it sparked Truett to go for it again, because he didn't hold it that wrong. And then that Japanese bloke got it at 8,900. Now, what people don't know is the behind the scenes of this record. So, yes, officially it just went 8,900, and then it was my one, which was 9,024. But
24.
in that time,
It wasn't 9,001. I thought it was 9,001.
yeah, no. Well, I'll show you the record. It's up there.
Oh, so you've got it now. It's 100%.
I've got it. Yeah, let me show you, man. Hold on.
Oh, that's crazy, man. I didn't realize, because I know when we were talking, you hadn't submitted it, but you've got it. You've submitted it. You're in the books. Nice.
I did the actual hard yards, and I did the paperwork, which is the worst thing about doing a record. So, yeah, it isn't officially 9,024. But I do need to kind of cover what happened before, because I am in all the chat groups and stuff, other people going for it. And it's something people don't discuss enough, I think, about going for records like this, where it's not a pro event and you do it on your own time. When you're training for a record, you have no idea who else is also training for it and when they're going to do it. So the last, I would say, probably 2.5 months, I was stressing, man, almost every day, because I'm going like, what if some guy I don't know about pops up, does 12K? And like, I know where I was at, and I'm like, okay, I could probably get 10,000. That's what I was going for. And then just ruins, all of this intense training I've been doing. And people were going for it. There was a guy from Spain, and we were probably quite similar at skill level. He went for it, and he blew his shoulder out halfway through. He was at about 6,000 in 12 hours. That was one of them. And I was like, I wanted him to do well, but also like, God. Yeah, a bit of both. And he had the same goal of 10K. Obviously, speaking with Face Sensor as well. He was training for it. He was really annoying and not telling me when he was going for it. And he had this goal of 11,000. So I'm like, bloody hell, I've got to get in before that. And then there's this kind of underlying mystical dude that everyone in the back end knows, but he's not very public, Chase Miller, who I've got to shout out, because this guy has been training, no joke, for 6 years for this event. And he keeps going, I'm going to do it this year, whatever, and this was last year. And I knew I had to get in before that, because, look, I can admit when I'm beat, yeah? I got in with the world record, but this guy's going to get it.
But he hasn't gone for it yet, has he?
Hasn't gone for it officially.
Okay, but 6 years is a long time. Like, how much more prep do you need after this point, surely?
That's what I'm saying, man. He says he just wants to blow it out of the water. He wants to get 15.
15,000?
Yeah.
Far out.
Which is that's crazy pace. Like,
what's his situation? Like, how what's he up to currently? Like, do you know much about it?
Unofficially, 12,000.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Where do you find these people? Like reddit.com/pull-up record?
It's all Instagram, man. I don't use Reddit or 4chan or Facebook even. I'm just on Instagram. It's a great way to reach out, to be honest, because you speak to one person and they go, oh, hey, have you heard of this guy? No. Oh, let me add you. You speak to them or whatever. How's your training going? They're like, oh, yeah, I'm speaking with this guy. So once you get in the community, like everyone kind of knows each other in this like little kind of pull-up calisthenics community. There's a lot of Aussies, so I'll shout out that as well. We account for, I'd say, a good third of it.
What do you reckon's made it so popular? I mean, well, originally White Goggins, right? Which obviously that record now kind of just looks a little bit trash, doesn't it? 4,030. But do you reckon that's what started it?
Well, it's definitely, I think it's one of those things here. I kind of divide this pull-up record into the modern era and previous. because obviously it's two different worlds, isn't it? 4,000 compared to we're at over 11 now, which we'll get into, I guess. But Goggins, he kind of created the law behind this and the interest, absolutely. And still to this day, like I will speak with anyone about the pull-up record and go, oh, Goggins got that. So yeah, it's always going to be that, I think. But it's definitely, it's stemming back to this Jackson guy. So that's the guy that got 8,008. So he was working with Phase Sensor, who obviously held the record for a little bit after me. I think also had a few talks with Truett. So once he got it, I feel like this just stemmed all these people, myself included, on this train of just training pull-ups. Way too many for what the human body should handle. And we've just seen all these people go for it. I've seen other people go for it as well. And other people technically get it, but not. And that's just happened recently as well, hasn't it, with this new record from Korea, which comes back to not knowing when people are going for this record. So the hard thing is you have a year to submit all your paperwork to Guinness to get it qualified, basically, certified. So even myself, I guess I'm at risk, but what you can do is if you're really quick with the paperwork, you can get it in and then great, done, got the record.
Or if you pay.
Or if you pay, yeah. Yeah. You can pay them a lot of money just to hurry up. But yeah, what happens if someone has done it before you and got more than you, but just took longer to do the paperwork? Well, they can't not allow it, like you did it. So now we get this weird problem, and it's an issue. I'm sure it's probably not this record, but it's just because it's such a hype thing and so many people are going for it, where people have actually got their record certificates, and it's more than one. But it's invalid because the date and the number is smaller and afterwards.
Yeah, true. Because you get it. Yeah, I get what you're saying. So you do it, you get the record, and then some guy hasn't submitted it from 9 months ago who's actually topped you.
Mate,
I actually remember when I was training for one of the burpee ones, I had it broken 6 times while I was training for it. Like I would literally it was the most burpees in an hour, and I would get to like the point where it was almost there, and then some guy would add on 20 reps, and I'm like, fuck. And then I'd train again for another month, 20 reps, fuck. And it just was this like rinse and repeat process.
Oh, it's brutal. Yeah.
I get what you mean.
Like looking at the sports psych side of things as well, it's challenging because every other sport you do, okay, whatever it is. I used to be a swimmer. Nationals and states, they were on this date. And you know exactly when your event was and when everyone else was doing that event. But with this, it's really hard to trust the process and going, I'm going this date when all these other people are going around you and there's constant talk. Oh, I want to do it this weekend. I want to do it in a month or whatever. So you're just kind of keeping these tabs on people, hoping that they don't blow it out the water and you can still kind of stick with your path.
So what was your time from training to attempt? Did you speed that up as well?
I didn't speed it up. I actually delayed it, but it was definitely in a quicker time frame than what I would have done otherwise if I wasn't worried about all these other people going for it. It turns out I probably could have delayed it another few weeks, but that's about it.
What was the time frame?
So, looking back at my calendar, I did the Tarawera 100 miler in February, and basically from then I started training. And I didn't have a date in mind when I first started. I'm like, I just need to get to that level. And when I started getting pretty good, probably when I was at 1,000 a day, I started looking at actually doing a date to train for.
So was that 6 months?
Only 6 months.
6 months is that's not a lot of time from going from like strict ultra running to pull up a world record. That's pretty quick, man. That's a fast time turnaround.
Well, it's been the quickest turnaround or quickest training block out of anyone that's got the record, from my understanding.
To be fair, I reckon it's probably because of the work you put in. Like I've met a lot of people training for records, myself included, that haven't put in anywhere near the work that you put in. Like that volume, 10,000 a week is a fucking wild amount of volume. So I can see how you got there, but I can also see how it could have also been your undoing with injury too, right? Like that's a lot of volume pretty fast.
Look, that's me, man. It's how I train. It's how we were pretty old school when we swam. I did way too much volume. Looking at it now, especially with looking at how Cam McAvoy won the 53 at the Olympics with hardly any swimming at all. But yeah, look, it's how I train. How did I get, decent? I wouldn't say good, but decent at ultra running is I just ran as much as I could every day for a solid 2.5 years. I was doing 100 miles a week, training for ultras, and I can tell you I'm not that good of a runner. Like I'm not a 100 mile a week runner. So, I think that's where you improve the best is you don't improve when you're training fresh. The only training time starts is when you're tired. So if you started your session and you're feeling fresh, that's a pre-fatigue exercise. But do that session and then do another session and now you're actually training. So I just took the exact same philosophy and programming I would do for running and just inserted it into pull-ups. But I think, the big thing is looking at your muscle groups, your legs have the ability to recover much better than your arms just by the fact, they're bigger, they're going to have more blood flow. Yeah, look, there's no doubt about it. Like your joints aren't meant to take that much volume, or if they are, you're probably looking at that Chase Miller program where he's gone for half a decade. But I knew I didn't have that time. It was like, I knew I didn't want to, first of all, do this for years and years and years. And I wanted it to be kind of mid to late 2024, and that's the time I had. So I just had to go all in for it. So, yeah, it's tricky. And then, combine that pretty tough training with the mentally tough side, and it's not a fun thing to go for. I'll say that. Like, it sounds cool, like, yeah, world record, but you almost feel like you're training with no direction, and at any point it could be with no purpose as well if someone just smashes it out of the park.
Do you think you still would have gone for it if it got beaten by, let's say, Chase came through and did 15,000 and you're at the peak of your training? Do you reckon you still would have attempted it?
Oh, probably not. Look, I know where I'm at. I knew I was capable for 10, and, maybe if I played my cards a bit better, I think I could have got there. But 15, you do the math on that, and look, maybe I could get that with 2 years training, but you don't know how quick you're going to develop, and where I was at, even at my best, I was not near that. You'd have to start off, like, I think doing 14 a minute for the first 6 or 8 hours, which I only did for the first one. It's a big difference.
Yeah, so walk us through the strategy. What was your plan coming in, and how did that change when you actually started?
Oh, my strategy changed a number of times, actually. I started off just going, what was I thinking? Just doing 8 a minute the whole way through. Because 8 a minute for me is very comfortable.
You were doing it 4 every 30 seconds, right?
Yeah, and I would divide the minute up into 2. I see these other guys, especially Truett, and actually doing every minute on the minute. And I go, like, it's too much rest. And the big thing about this is you want to cut the amount of lactic buildup you're going to get. So instead of, when does lactic build up when you're doing your sets? It's not the first rep, it's the last reps. So why don't I just cut half of the last reps, and instead of doing 8, let's do 4 and just have a shorter rest. It worked well for me because I felt like I didn't really ever get lactic buildup. And then, you just kind of find where your aerobic threshold is. So yeah, every time I say how many a minute, it's actually, sets of half that. So yeah, for a long time, my training was 8 a minute. Figured I should probably start building up my speed a bit more, even though I'm training for endurance. So then went to 10 a minute, and that's comfortable as well. But that's when it was a turning point where I'm starting to speak to these other people, and this guy's going through, and this guy's going through, this guy's doing this pace and this many per minute. I go, oh man, is my training what it's meant to be?
They got in
I
your head.
stuck with my guns, but what really switched things up, interestingly, was I actually had an injury halfway through. So at this time, I was probably doing 5,000 a week. I was still doing jiu-jitsu. And I knew I probably shouldn't have been. And then, who would have thought? I go in one session and I quite badly injured my AC joint. Like, I got thrown, hit the mat, heard it pop. That's not good. Finished the roll, actually. But then afterwards, it doesn't feel too good. So I just stopped for the day. I went home, cooled down, obviously, for like half an hour. Tried to do a pull-up, and I couldn't. It was way too painful. I'm like, oh no, what have I done? I actually couldn't do pull-ups for 2 weeks, and this was closer to the record than probably what you'd think. So that was a terrible 2 weeks where I thought it was cooked, and I was annoyed at the guy, even though he's really nice. But anyway, after I got back, 2 weeks rest, and I was there, and it's like I still felt it, but I could do pull-ups. I don't know what happened. It was maybe even a good forced rest because my ability to go faster drastically increased. So about a week after I got back to doing 10 a minute. And I'm like, well, these other guys are doing much more per minute than me. Let's give it a go. And I went up to 12 a minute. I'm like, this feels pretty good. And then I eventually went up to doing 14 a minute and never did this in the event, but I even got relatively comfortable at 16 a minute, where I could hold that for about an hour. So I kind of changed up my training from just going the same pace the whole time to kind of, I would say, doing more speed work, going faster than the pace I'd actually be going at the event. And it's hard to know, did that actually help or not? Because I don't really have a comparison, another training block I did. But I feel like it definitely helped, and it made me more comfortable at these faster paces, and also made this 10 per minute and the 8 per minute seem so slow and easy.
So did you come out of the gates doing, on the actual record day, did you come out doing 8 a minute? Was that the initial starting point?
No, so that's what I was going to do. But after this and this was only a month, after this quick ramp up in my speed, I go, I'm not doing 8 a minute. Let's bang out more in the first half because I know I'm going to, fatigue. So I came out the gates doing 14 a minute for the first hour.
For the first one, sorry, I just laughed.
For the first hour. So it's lovely at that pace, by the way, because you just, every time you look at the count, you're like, oh, I'm flying through this. So it was nearly 1,000 in the first hour, like, easy. I'm 10% of the way there. But, I thought I'd play it smart. Like, I could keep going, but dropped it down to 12. And I did 12 for, I think, a couple hours or a few. And then, kept just slowly dropped it down to 10. Knowing how it panned out now, I should have probably just cut the 14 in a minute, start at 12, and maintain that for longer. Because I think this is probably a contributing factor to how I turned out halfway through.
Yeah, so where did it start going, okay, I'm in a bit of trouble here? Because that's a strong pace. Like, how many did you get by, let's say, a quarter in?
Well, I've got a few records. I'm still pending on those ones. But, I think at 8,000 in, I was halfway. I was 8 hours. I think I was at 5,000.
Fuck. So yeah, okay. So you were halfway to the goal.
At the third of the time
third
in.
of the way. Yeah.
So, anyone at that point can go, it's in the bag. Sure, no problem. And then even I hit 12 hours and I think I was over 6,500. So you're like, he's nearly there. But that's where it all went south. It was probably 12 hours and 10 minutes or something. Had to duck out to the toilet, and my piss was orange. And go, oh no. You can actually see on the record, the video is on YouTube. I'm sure my face changes. So I'm like, feeling all right. Go piss. I knew what it was straight away. I knew I had rhabdo. And I'm only halfway through. So I come out and I've just got this wave of dread over my face. Like, fuck, I know what rhabdo does. Like, am I even going to be able to get there now? Like, I was so confident. I was looking at beating Face Sensor's goal of 11,100. And then that happened. Oh no, am I even going to be able to get it? So once you get rhabdo, everything starts not working. You know, like your ability to just contract your muscles just disappears. So I come out. There's a doctor there. I go speak to him. I'm like, "Hey, mate, how bad is this?" Basically,
how bad's kidney failure?
yeah. And he's like, "Look, just keep me updated, but as long as it's not stinging, just keep going." So I'm like, "Cool, all right." My piss is now orange, but it's not stinging. Something he probably failed to consider is I was on, at that point, maybe 500 milligrams of caffeine, which for me is a lot. I'm quite sensitive. And I had a few Panadols in me just for my hands, just to numb my hands, because they were all blistered up at that point. So it probably was stinging, but I just didn't feel it. But yeah, at that point, basically, like, I had felt really good up to that point. I got a few of my mates into DJ up to the 12-hour mark. So, you know, feeling great through that. You got the tunes bumping. But the moment it hit 12 hours, that's where people started to trickle out. It got a bit quieter. And what time? I started at 10 a.m. So, you know, it was getting kind of late there. And that's where everything just started going downhill, you know. Like, this happens on any 24-hour event. You hit nighttime. Doesn't matter if you start 10 a.m. or 4 a.m. And mentally, you know, you start going into this cave.
It's unraveling.
It is. It is. Something, I think you guys did a reel or something, and I really liked it. It must have been about King of the Hill, where you said, fatigue makes a coward of us all. And it really does, you know. It's you push through in those times. So I had
12
Rhabdo.
to 4. It's the worst.
Yeah, they're the times.
12 to 4. Yeah.
Like, I knew it. Yeah, go ahead.
Just to say, it has made me contemplate whether or not starting it at first light is the way to do it, or if you should start at night so you can tackle that 12 to 4 shift in your most like in your freshest time, right? Something I've contemplated quite a lot.
Mate, I thought about that as well. Like, because no event starts at nighttime. They all start in the day, you know. It'd be an interesting thing. Obviously, you've got the downside of, have you been up all day? Like, how much rest did you get throughout the day? And then you're just increasing your sleep debt. Would be the downside. But yeah, I think it's probably one of those things where it's circadian rhythm as well. Like, you're meant to be asleep at those hours. Yeah. And your body knows that. You know, it's not fun.
All right, so back to Rhabdo. So you've got Rhabdo 12 hours in. You started realizing it was going bad.
Yeah. Look, all I did at that point was just reduce my pace. I go, okay, you know what? I don't need 11K. The goal, I think at that point, was still 10K. So I'm like, let's just drop it back. Let's take it easy. But whatever pace I did, I think I was doing sets at 3 at that point. Now, it wasn't easy. So I'm like, well, this isn't good. This has turned bad real quick.
What did it feel like? Just daily muscle failure, or?
Yeah, extreme fatigue. I should probably say, like, there were signs and symptoms which I now know I ignored leading up to it. So between the 8 and the 12-hour mark, I was cramping, like, constantly. I was constantly cramping. My chest was going, lats were going, and I'll just kind of massage it out between each set. So
and you described that as like a rippling effect as well, right? Like, it wasn't just like a normal cramp.
Oh no, it was like I feel like there's different cramps. There's a cramp like, oh, and you stretch it, it's all right. And there's cramps where it's like, it is going no matter what. So my chest was just kind of contracting. And no matter what I did, it would just keep going. It wasn't stopping me. It wasn't one of those cramps like a hammy where you're like, I can't take it out. But yeah, it was just kind of, your muscle fibers are going. Like, they don't have the electrolytes or the nutrition in them. So I was just ignoring that because I'm like, oh, fuck it, it's not stopping me. But that's a great sign and symptom. If you're cramping for hours, you're going to get rhabdo. Who would have thought? Yeah. So ignore that. And then once you get it, it's just extreme fatigue. You just lose any power you have in your muscles. And at that point, yeah, just everything starts going downhill. So it was probably a mistake as it just cut time, but 12 hours 35 in or whatever, I'm like, all right, I'll have a break. And it was the first time I took my gloves off to change the tape. Just leave it on, don't do it. So I did that. All the skin comes off, and it was like, I knew it had come off already because you can feel them go. You can feel your hands deglove, like you go on a rep, and then it's just squelch. You're like, that's my nail that's just come off. Here's the thing. This stuff I was all prepared for. I knew it was going to happen. So on the day, I'd mentally prepared. It didn't bother me, but the rhabdo I had not planned for. And with these events, it's probably with anything. When something doesn't go to plan, it's really annoying. You try to plan for everything and there's always something that hits you. So this rhabdo was just this looming thing because I'm like, what if I just get to the point I can't do a pull-up? And it was a matter of time before I got there, really. So, yeah, there's nothing to do in those situations just to keep going. Like everyone was trying their best to keep me up, give me food and stuff. Just, I wasn't hungry. The reps weren't flowing too well, but I just had to maintain a pace. Like it didn't really matter how I felt. I just had to knock out. And my dad was there pretty much the whole time. And, usually I'm pretty good at doing things myself, like swimming. You're underwater. You're there by yourself. In ultra running, it's a solo event most of the time, especially, second half of the race. But I must say, having a crowd there and people helping you on and cheering you through every set, it really did make a difference for this. Yeah. That they were just yelling out like, yeah, like good, just maintain it. And, your world just closes in more and more on you. Like, I've been in the pain cave a number of times. And I was in the pain cave for longer and more intense than I've ever been. It was 12 hours in the hole, and I was not getting out of the hole. So it just got worse and worse. And, you hit those then later hours in the morning, that 4 a.m., which would have been how many hours? 18 hours in, I think. That was probably the low point. So I had 6 hours to do 1,000 pull-ups, which for me is the easiest thing. That's so achievable. But I was at this point, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to make this. I remember I said to myself, I didn't say it out loud, but I was thinking, I'm going to miss this by a few hundred. Like, I'm just not going to be able to do it. Because my pace was dropping and dropping and dropping. And my dad just said, you've just got to maintain the pace. And if you graphed my pace over time, you'd see it drop. But from that 18-hour mark, it just stayed. Like I just switched into another gear, knowing that I couldn't go slower. Like I didn't have an option. So we were just ticking them off, and my goodness, it was slow. They were blasting Rocky as loud as they could. We had a pretty good sound system. But yeah, you just lose every ability you have to pull. And by the last hour, luckily I knew I was actually going to be able to make it. It was probably at 22 and a half hours. I'm like, okay, this is possible again. Switched back on when, a couple hundred away. But I was down to doing sets of one. It wasn't going to last that much longer before I just couldn't hit a rep. And then you start doubting yourself even after you've got it. Like, my reps weren't looking too pretty by the end of it. I'm like, is that one going to count? Again, is going to take that one off? Are they going to invalidate the whole thing? So you've got all this unknown, and that's the big thing. The unknown in training and in the actual event plays on you so big mentally. It's much easier if you're in a race and you're winning. You feel great. You've got all this energy. You get energy from knowing you're winning. But when there's an unknown, it's so hard to keep yourself going and having that confidence that you're actually going to get it. It's going to get certified. Some other cat in Spain or whatever hasn't gone for it the day before. So there's a lot of, I guess just different experiences you get from going from this amateur event from something more traditional like swimming or running.
Were you scared that, because Rhabdo's not a joke. So at the time, were you scared of the consequences, or was that not even in your head?
Oh, I had no fear for my health. I was scared. I absolutely was scared. You can see a way. That's probably the best way to describe it. At 12 hours, when I came back out of the toilet, I had fear. I was scared that I wasn't going to get it, to be honest.
But not of your health. You weren't worried about
No,
the
and
consequences
obviously,
of
look, by the end, like, it was. I know a lot of people describe it as iced tea, but no, mine was bright red. My piss was bright red.
Yeah, which is severe. Like you're right in the belly end of rhabdo, because a lot of people will get early onset of rhabdo, have the muscle cramps, pee a little bit different, and then they'll call it, like they'll go to hospital, and that's happened to a friend of mine as well. But you did another 12 hours of pull-ups before you actually took action on it, I guess.
Well, that's a smart thing to do. Once again, like I knew I had rhabdo and I knew I should go to the hospital. I did know that, but I also knew I didn't have an option. Like it's now or never. So too bad, suck it up. My piss wasn't stinging. My low back was hurting a little bit, but I could still go. That it's not smart to do. There was an MMA fighter who died
I saw
6
that.
weeks ago from it.
Yeah, I thought of you.
Yeah. Well, he didn't address it. That's the thing. Yes, I did another 12 hours, which got a record level of CK. So, a quick side story, if you're wondering how severe my rhabdo was. Most people that get rhabdo and that they measure your blood, there's a thing called, an enzyme called CK, creatine kinase. I think the reference range for that is 80 to like 200, about, in a normal healthy person. People with rhabdo might get 10,000, 50,000, whatever. It's pretty severe. We clocked mine at 252,000. So
I was breaking records.
yeah, different records. Yeah, all the nurses at the hospital are like, well, I've never seen that high.
So how long were you in hospital for afterwards?
Oh yeah. Well, the recovery was tough. So the way they fix you, it's pretty basic, to be honest. They just pump you full of IV for a few days. So I was in hospital, I think for 3 days, 3 nights.
Oh, that's a long time to be in there, though. That's a long time to be in there for rhabdo. I haven't heard of anyone in there for that long.
Right. I don't know the reference. It didn't affect me though, because I wasn't going to be doing anything else besides just lying in bed. Like my hands. Remember, my hands had degloved, so I didn't have skin on my hands. So they're just here couldn't do anything. I couldn't sustain myself. And recovery from rhabdo is tough. Like you're just so fatigued. So I was basically just sleeping the whole time anyway. Went home, and for the next week I was sleeping 16 hours a day. I was just so fatigued. And even from then, like it's not like, okay, now I'm feeling better. No, then it went to the second week, I was still sleeping, no joke, 12 hours a day for a week, and then started to feel a bit more normal after a couple of weeks recovery. So I think that is more so the rhabdo than the pull-ups. My lats weren't really sore. It was just fatigue, general fatigue. I think you do any intense effort for over 24 hours and your circadian rhythm gets messed up. But the rhabdo, I don't exactly know what your body does to recover, but I guess has to basically get all of that CK and put it back into your muscles and ideally stop pissing it out.
Man, that is full on. I mean, I know we've spoken before, but I'm genuinely a bit shook that happened. Because I think at the time when you did it, I was away or something. I can't remember what, but I didn't get the chance to come down, unfortunately.
Mate, it was the most unfortunate timing. You were on mod 2, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was on the army course. But I can't believe that you were in hospital for 3 days and your levels were that high and you went from 12 hours of knowing, like, I like to think I'm tough, right? And I don't think I would have done that. I don't think I could have mentally hacked that. But you just were so locked in. And I actually remember seeing you pre-record. Like, I could just tell that you would die on that bar. Like, there was just this aura of feeling of I don't give a fuck what happens. I'm 100, and it makes sense because that happened, and then you're just like, don't give a shit. I'm taking this to the grave, and
That's it.
you certainly rolled the dice a bit too.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of those things that ignorance is bliss as well. Like I didn't really know how bad it was, you know. But it's the mindset you got to have. I think with any ultra event, and is that you gotta be prepared. Like my thing is same with the ultras is just that if I can keep going, I will. Like unless this is going to cost my life a limb, I can recover from it. You know.
Do you think since then because I mean that's a pretty big thing to overcome, and even though it's been 10 months, people see 10 months and like, oh, that's ages, but 10 months from something like that is really not that long. You know, sometimes you carry injuries and even the mental part of it for like 1 to 2 years at least. But have you got something on the horizon, or how do you feel now?
Yeah, look, I'd say mentally I'm over it, to be honest. But yeah, it's tough because I get people all the time. What are you going for next? What are you going for next?
It's annoying, isn't it? I reckon it's
It is.
Annoying
So what are you going
like,
for, mate? You know? I've got some ideas, but yeah, I need to recover my tendons. So I've been doing a lot of things, trying to fix them. But yeah, I've just come off actually kind of 2.5 week break where I just haven't done any pulling exercises at all. So I'll see how that feels, you know, after a week of doing pulling again. But yeah, I want to fully recover from this. You know, the best thing you can do at least is like, yeah, okay, go all in on the event. But this is where I will differ from, you know, kind of the other guys, especially like you, Goggins mentality, where he'll keep going. I go, well, look, sure, have that mindset that helps you get through it, but at least set yourself up for the next thing by being, you know, fully functional first. So I've got to recover this tennis elbow. I'm interested to try the complete opposite. So I've done ultra endurance events for a good 5 years now. And I really want to see how I can go with a single rep pull up, to be honest.
Single rep is in heaviest weight.
Yeah. So that's fully different. I've never done any kind of powerlifting based program. I've done anything from sprint up to ultra endurance and everything in between. But obviously there's a new set of challenges with that. And I'm not exactly sure, like I'm definitely an endurance athlete, not a power athlete. I just want to see how far I can get. So I've never really trained weighted pull-ups, but I can already pull like 80 kilo. So
you'd single rep 80 kilo. That's huge.
With a pull-up. Yeah, so yeah. I want to see like if I can actually knock out a powerlifting-esque kind of training program for it, how does that look, you know?
Do you know the thing about training for, I guess, this is like, when you're doing this type of stuff, right, it's just purely performance. It's not about endurance at all, as you already know, but it's so, when you come from ultra endurance and then you're trying to strive towards like a speed record or something, it is so much more enjoyable to train for, I reckon. Because your actual training size is so small because you have to prioritize so much recovery to be able to do it. So it is...
Yeah, well, that's probably my big issues because I'm not big on recovery. You know, like I don't go to physio or chiro and have massage every week and ice bath. I always think the best recovery is sleep. So I'm huge on sleep. I think it's how I'm able to do these intense training blocks. I aim for 9 hours a night. So
yeah, nice, same.
That's the key. Like, people will spend hundreds of dollars every week on all this stuff, but they're sleeping 6 hours.
Yeah, it's all shit. And they're eating shit and they're doing shit and going out on the weekend, they're drinking, they're doing all these things, and then they chuck on some like therapy boots and have an ice bath and they're like, yeah, I'm fucking recovery, man.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
They're dying. Yeah. But I still do a lot of volume. So yes, it's not, at the moment, it's not hyper specific on one thing, but I'm back in jiu-jitsu, even though it's injured me a number of times now. Like I'm doing that 4 or 5 days a week. Sometimes that's 2 hours a night. I still go to gym every day. That's always my base. So we'll see how it goes. As I said, I need to get this right because the last thing I can do is do a super heavy one. I do a lot of one arm pull-ups training for it, and just flaring it up more. But yeah, will doing all these other activities affect my recovery and my ability to generate power? I don't know. We'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, like, I can't go for this until I'm fully recovered. So even though it's 10 months, you know, don't expect one around the corner. Like, it'll happen when it happens, you know.
Yep. Sounds good. All right, well, last question, man. What's which I'm making a tradition on this now, is what's one challenge you'd love to see someone else do but you'd never do yourself?
Ooh. Well, that is a good question. I've not thought about that. It would have to be some swimming one, which I know Ross Edgley's kind of covered them off all. I wish he gave me more time to prepare it, to be honest.
That's all right. You don't need to know an answer. It's Ross Edgley's it looks like he's pretty far through that as well, actually. I was just checking up on that this morning. He's I think he's just passed like 25% or something. I mean, at the time of when people listen to this, he's probably finished it, but
Where's he swimming now?
he's going around Iceland, which is 80,000 miles. And
I mean, sure.
stuff that,
I've done enough swimming, and it's much more boring than running. So, I don't know. Either that, or I would say like a military one. But I might do a military one. Like, I've always considered doing like, how many basic fitness assessments can you do in 24 hours, something like that. But that's probably not an answer to your question, because I might go for that if the opportunity.
Yeah, that sounds like things you want to do.
Yeah.
That's all right. Nice, man. Well, we might wrap there. Thank you for this. This has been great. I've loved hearing about all the pull-ups.
All good. Yeah. How to injure yourself. Yeah. I don't recommend it, but if you want to do it, hopefully that's, you know, some useful insight.